Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. I'm mom of two, wife of one, and as you can see from the video below, we are here to discuss Married at First Sight, season 14, episode 10. This was the episode where Dr. Viviana, who is the sex expert, she came to visit all four couples to talk to them about their intimacy and about communication. It was very interesting indeed. It's always great when the experts come on the show, period, because they force the couples to really delve into topics or subjects that they have previously swept under the rug. It helps them to have an impartial party who will force them to listen to each other. Because as we saw last night with one of the couples, specifically Michael and Jasmina, they're very good at talking over each other because they're each trying to get heard and they're cutting each other off. So it's great having Dr. Viviana there for them specifically to help them really listen to each other. So that's where we're going to start with Michael and Jasmina. Jasmina is infuriating. Like, that's really how I can sum up the whole thing. She is very condescending. She is very good at talking down to Mike like he is a 4-year-old. She treats him like he is her student and like it's her sole job, not even as his wife, but it's her sole purpose in his life to really teach him and guide him into being a better man. She, at least in the beginning of the episode, up until this point, the past 9 weeks, she has not been holding herself accountable. Everything is his fault. He's the reason why we're not at this place. I'm not, she never says she's not attracted to him, but Dr. Vivian again speaks about the intimacy part. And, they both admitted we're not kissing, we're not cuddling, we're not hugging, we're not holding hands, and not doing anything physical with each other at all. Because she was like, my mental, my emotional, they have to be lined up first, and then I can get there, and it's not there yet. And it's like, I do understand, as most women are like that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But at the same token, if you want to get there, if you actually truly want to get to that point of being physically intimate with him, and not even sex, they both said we're not even talking about sex, but just kissing more, just hugging more, just wanting to touch each other in that way. If you want to get there with him, then you need to put in some work too. And that's the most infuriating part of her, is that she's put everything on him. So Dr. Viviana did suggest that they start to journal so they can get everything out and then come back and share their thoughts. So after Dr. Viviana left, they're talking about it. Michael was like, yeah, so I think journaling will be good for us. We can both, take the time to write whatever we need without the other person talking over the other person without cutting each other off. And she was like, well, I feel like I don't need to journal because I'm comfortable just having a conversation with you. But you can go and journal and then you can bring it back to me. Now, here's the problem. Michael is trying. He is visibly and actively trying to make this work with his wife, Jasmina. So one thing he's not really doing is he's not saying, this is your fault because you're not doing whatever. She is constantly, without saying this is your fault, she is constantly telling him what he should and should not be doing and how you need to be more vulnerable. You need to open your mouth. You need to journal. You can show me what you journal and I respond to it. I'm fine the way I am. This is what I need you to do. And he's trying to get her to understand that in the most patient and caring way. And I could tell that he was being very, very careful with how he said things because he knows how she is. As soon as he shows any kind of passion or frustration, she's going to whip out, you need to calm down. You're being aggressive in your tone. I don't like when you talk to me like that. That's not cool. It's like, what is he supposed to do? He's getting frustrated, visibly frustrated, but you can see him really counting down in his head, like, all those exercise people tell you to do when you're upset, counting to 10, taking deep breaths. We can clearly see him doing all of that before he responds to her because he's not trying to make it seem like he's yelling at her. And he's not trying to give her a reason to tell him to calm down. So he's telling this to her, like, no, because we're always cutting each other off. So what do you mean always? It's not always happening. Like, and again, she's cutting him off visibly. But then when he turns around and does it to her, don't cut me off, I'm not talking. It's like, you just did it to him 5 seconds ago. So it's okay for you to do that to him as long as he doesn't do that to you. And then in the middle of him explaining himself, she gets up and she walks out of the apartment. I feel like we're talking in circles and we're not getting anywhere because he's not listening to me. You are not listening. It was so infuriating. It's like, girl, you're doing all the things that you are accusing him of doing. So at the end of the episode, they both decided basically, okay, we won't journal. Because he told her, he was like, journaling, it's like, F journaling, that's not the point. If you feel like we don't need journaling, if you feel like we can just have the conversation and use our words, then we'll try that. But we need to try something because what we're doing isn't working. And while he's talking to her and basically saying, hey, we'll go along with whatever you want, this chick is rolling her eyes like she's 5. I was like, girl, But at the end of the episode, one thing I loved what Dr. Viviana had them all do. All the couples had some kind of exercise to do. And I love that they did tantric yoga. And we saw another couple do this. I don't remember who from a previous season, where I've never done tantric yoga, but watching it, I was like, I think I would love to do this with my husband. It's a great way to build intimacy because at least the way they did it, there's no talking. So that means there's no way to talk over each other if you guys are not saying any words. Two, it's a lot of gazing in each other's eyes, which we all know the window to the soul. So they're able to really look at the person that they marry. Really think about, what kind of marriage do I want? What kind of person have I married? What attributes do I like? What attributes do I not like? It really helped them to kind of center themselves. And they had exercises where they had to touch each other, not in a sexual way, but just touching them anywhere on their body. And for a couple who have not really touched each other at all in weeks, it was good to see them be in a position where they have to touch a shoulder or put their hand on the partner's heart or touch their knee or touch their back. It was really good. And it's those little touches and those little, soft caresses that can really lead to something more. So I love that they had a chance to do that. I loved the exercise I did at the end where one person would be blindfolded while the other person asked them an intimate question, and the person blindfolded had to answer honestly. And the beauty about being blindfolded in that way is that A, you can't see the person's facial expression when you're speaking, and B, with the blindfold on, the other person feels almost guilty about interrupting you. So they both got to speak without interruption and be very open and honest. And it was the first time I saw a little crack in her armor because she asked him, "What do you wish for this marriage?" And he said, "I wish that I trusted you more." And I'm sure she didn't realize he felt that way, but it was vulnerable for him, which is what she's been asking for all this time. But it also was a way to let her know that, hey, just like you're pointing fingers at me and saying I'm doing all these things wrong, you're not innocent in all of this. I wish I could trust you, but because I don't trust you, I can't be vulnerable with you and I can't be myself. So this is part of the reason why we're not where we need to be. And it was the first time where she was looking taken aback, like, oh, not being offended, but just like, oh, that's how he feels. I made him feel that way. And so for the first time, she finally held herself accountable. She apologized. She said, "You are not the only one to blame. Everything is not your fault." And he needed, not even he, the rest of us, we needed to hear her say that because all of this time, she's slowly creeping up to become somewhat of a villain. And so I'm glad that they had the conversation. I'm so glad that it went the way it did. It's them and another couple, but I absolutely love watching Michael and Jasmina laugh together. When they laugh together and they're being silly and they're being goofy, laughter isn't everything in a marriage, but it's a big part of a marriage. If you're that comfortable to just be silly with each other, it shows that you guys can have those good times. And I'm really hoping those good times will continue on for them and will outweigh the bad. I think in terms of them staying together, it's 50-50. I mean, her admitting that he's not the only one at fault and admitting where she's kind of done wrong is a big step. But it's still early in the process, technically, even though we're going into week 11 next week. For them, this only 3 weeks of marriage. They still have 8 more weeks to go. So we have no idea what's going to happen in those remaining weeks of marriage. And I'm hoping that this means she will turn a corner. And I'm hoping that means he'll turn a corner as well. That trust will be built between them, that they will actually want to get more physical, that they'll have sex at some point maybe. But I don't know. I really don't know. But I'm going to say 50-50 on them staying together. So let's go to Noy and Steve. So I still don't know if they've had sex or not. I know that they said before, one of the episodes when they were around the other couples, they did say, we decided if we have sex that we're not going to talk to anybody about it. But normally, even if they don't mention it to the rest of the cast, they normally will mention it to an expert if the expert asks them outright, hey, have you guys been intimate? Now, Dr. Viviana didn't ask them that, so my assumption is that they have not. So I'm just going to assume that they haven't because I literally can't tell. In their conversation, though, Noy admitted that she shuts down when she's upset because she doesn't want to lash out in anger. And it's really interesting. It's a catch-22, right? Like, if you're pissed off with somebody, obviously, speaking while you're fully in your emotions and fully feeling everything isn't always the best move. especially with someone that you don't know, right? So you don't know the communication style. You don't know at all how they're going to take the things that you're saying to them. So lashing out when you're that pissed off is most likely not the brightest idea. But then leaving and completely ghosting a person isn't a good idea either. So having that balance is very difficult, and it takes years to learn how to do that. Years of marriage, years of being with someone to really understand how they process information, to understand the importance of giving each other space, but understand that too much space is a bad thing. You can step away for a little bit, you can walk around the block, you can walk around the building. Again, I say every week, they have a 2-bedroom apartment for a reason. Go into the other bedroom if you need to. Just take some time to think. And then once you know what you want to say and you've processed your feelings and maybe you've looked at it from the other person's side, now you guys can come back together and have that conversation and really find an understanding between each other. And it's something that she has to learn. It's not going to happen overnight, and I get that. But Steve did tell her, like, we need to make sure we work on that because that's not sustainable. And he's right. And I will say that Steve is, I identify with him, not a lot. I identify with him when it comes to the way he views things. He's extremely analytical and he's all about logic, logistics, and really figuring things out. And it's interesting for someone to be that way who still loves adventure and who loves the idea of just going off and camping for a month. Because I'm not about that life. But I definitely identify with him needing to have some kind of, I can't even say structure and order, but just have an idea of making sense of something, right? Not focusing so much on feelings, but weighing his feelings with actual facts. So I can appreciate that in him. And I think that's what she needs. Like, she really needs someone who will bring her back down to earth occasionally, but she also needs to loosen the reins a little bit because I feel like she is too strict and stringent in the things that she wants. The one thing she has said over and over is that she needs to hear a logistical plan that he has when it comes to work. And I feel like that's going to come up almost every other episode because it's kind of confusing. He does not currently have a full-time job, but he keeps saying that I am an employable person. That's fine that you're an employable person, but you're still not employed. So being an employable person doesn't mean anything. That's like saying I am a marriageable person. I'm a person that someone could marry. I'll be a great wife. That's great, but you're not currently a wife. So it doesn't matter if you would make somebody a good wife in the future. Right now, your title is not wife. Right now, his title is not employed. So whether you can be employed or not, and whether you have the capacity to make money or not, what does that matter if you aren't making money? Because I know that he doesn't want a full-time job, but he mentioned how he could freelance, he could have these clients and do this and do that, but I don't think he's doing those things. So saying I can do those things is not the same thing as saying I am doing those things. And he mentioned to her that, if I get a full-time job, I won't be able to cook and clean like I've been doing around the house. And, do you want to give that up? And she's like, we're both here. Like, we can take turns doing that, or we can hire somebody to do that. Like, that's not a big deal. I'm not going to give up financial stability just because, oh my gosh, now he won't be around to cook and clean anymore. No, and she never said you have to go out and get a full-time job. Even if he got a part-time job, or even if he freelanced and had a couple clients under his belt, she'd be fine with that. The whole idea is you not working at all. She never said you have to have this type of job. It has to be a 401k. It has to be a 9 to 5. You have to be out of the house for 8 to 10 hours a day. She's never said that. All she said was, I need to see that you are working. That is it. And again, if she's saying that, that means you can kind of craft that to mean what you want it to mean. And I think it was unfair that he was like, have you had to worry about bills? Like, you haven't had to worry about bills. I'm like, it's been 3 weeks and you're not paying rent. So you don't have to worry about bills because y'all probably haven't had a discussion at all about your combined bills. And you probably haven't combined your bills at this point. It's been 3 weeks. So it's 3 weeks of still getting to know each other and 5 weeks more of marriage until you guys make the decision if you want to stay together or not. But again, like what bills would you have to discuss together other than buying groceries? But as far as I know, you guys haven't sat down and really talked about money, because if you had, she would have seen what you have in your savings account and she would be like, oh, okay, we can live off of that for a while. But I understand her. That's the part of me that identifies with her. I need a solid plan. You don't have to give me a bullet point by bullet point thing about what you're planning to do. But even if you just say, hey, I decided that I don't want a full-time job, but I am willing to freelance. I'm going to take on no more than 2 clients a semester or a quarter or a year or whatever. This is how much I stand to make by doing that. This is how much I'm going to put towards my savings. This is how much I'm going to put towards our monthly expenses. And, we'll be good from there on. I need actual facts and figures. And again, because he's bringing up this whole job thing, that means that he has not shared that figure with her yet. At the bare minimum, show her what you have in savings. Sit down and talk about your monthly expenses together so you can figure this out. Because obviously, if you guys choose to stay together, now you guys are going to have to look for an apartment. So what is the budget for the apartment? What neighborhood do you guys want to live in? Do you both have a car? What about money for car expenses? What, for anything? Because I'm assuming, again, if you guys choose to stay together, that's when you'll have that conversation about finance. But that needs to happen before that decision day. Y'all both need to really sit down and look at what's coming in and what's going out for both of you. And he keeps saying, I can take care of my family and, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, okay, but until you met her, your family was you. Because your family are all grown. They're taking care of themselves. So, of course, it's easy to take care of you. You're one person. You didn't even have a pet. So, just taking care of yourself, okay, that's nice. But you have a wife now. You have a stepdog or whatever. Eventually, you guys are going to have kids. Those are other people and other circumstances to consider. And I don't think he's doing that because as logical and analytic as he is, he doesn't seem to be the kind of person that looks far into the future. He's more like, oh, well, in this current day, today, at this particular hour, by these seconds, I'm good. And I don't have these financial worries and I don't have this, and I don't have that. But y'all know this world is crazy. Y'all know a bunch of stuff is happening in the world with stock markets, with your own jobs, with whatever. So who knows what could happen day to day? She's just saying, okay, what is the actual plan? You don't have to stick to the plan letter by letter, but at least let me know something. And again, I'm going to keep saying it. He needs to, at the very least, show her the statement for his savings account. Just so she can see, oh, okay, you have that in savings? Okay, I think we'll be okay. Just show her that, or you can freelance, get a couple freelance jobs before these 8 weeks are up. Get you a couple clients, so at least she can physically see you doing work, and she knows that something is coming in. Even if she don't know exactly how much you're bringing in, she knows that something is coming in. Because it's not enough to say I can make money. We can all make money doing whatever. That don't mean it's legal. That don't mean it's right. That don't mean it's enough money. That don't mean anything. So. And she said to Dr. Viviana, I do not want to stay at home husband or dad. And it seems like that's kind of what he wants to do right now. So she's like, if she doesn't want that, and that's what he's comfortable being in this moment, I don't know where they're supposed to go from here. But again, I don't think his situation is a permanent one. And I think she probably knows that as well. But again, he's not giving her any kind of timeline. At least tell her something. At least say, in the next few weeks, I'm going to start putting some feelers out there to have some clients. Tell us to give her something. Because right now, you're cooking and you're cleaning, that's great. But she's watching you do that while she's putting in a full day of work. And that's frustrating and annoying. I will say for their exercise, I did like it. They had a 5 senses exercise. So this kind of asks questions about stuff that you're tasting and smelling and seeing and hearing and touching. And I thought it was interesting that she didn't know what a body shot was. I'm like, you're 33. I've never done one, but I know what they are. So I thought it was weird that she didn't know what it was. And I love that his fantasy, they talked about their fantasies, like sexual fantasies. And I love that his was, I want to take a shower together and clean each other with soap and water. So she was like, so you want to take a shower together and get clean? Is the way she said it, which is hilarious. And then she was like, I want to have sex in a public place. And I was like, okay, I like her fantasy a little bit better. But then his mind kicked in. And I love that when he did his talking head, he was like, yeah, I was surprised she said that. I have some ideas in mind, but I have to find a place where we're not going to get in trouble. I was like, that is me all day. I can be spontaneous to an extent, but I have to think of ramifications. I have to think of consequences. I still have to control some part of the scenario. So I love that his mind immediately went there because my mind would do the same thing. They're still a cute couple. I still think they're going to work and they're going to be fine. I don't know if we should do Lindsay and Mark or Olajuwon and Katina next. I'm going to say Lindsay and Mark. Dr. Viviana called her out for being rude. Very happy about that because Lindsay more than deserved it. I think Lindsay is justified in expressing her sexual frustration. It's like we clicked, we had sex, he pulled back, now he barely touches me. So I understand being confused because those are mixed messages and being sexually frustrated. I definitely get it. It's the way she says things. You know, I can go back to my vibrator. He's not doing nothing for me. It's this and it's that and blah, 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 blah. I understand her frustration, though. I definitely understand it. I can get it. But he's like, I need to have a more emotional connection, a deeper emotional connection before I can have sex. But then she tells her friend a story about how he did touch her and he basically took her clothes off and did his business. But she was like, it wasn't about me at all. He didn't do anything to please me. It's like he did his business and then he got up and left. So there's no emotional connection there. So again, those are mixed messages, mixed signals. I understand that completely. But she's talking to her friend and she did say their sexual needs aren't being met. And she questioned her friend about what intimacy is. And I think honestly, intimacy differs per person and per couple, I think. Intimacy can be a lot of different things. It could be simply having a conversation together where you both are being vulnerable and talking about your deepest fears and darkest secrets. Intimacy can be holding hands. Intimacy could be sitting in a room and not saying anything. Intimacy can be a lot of different things. And I think for her to question that, I think she asked the wrong person that question. That's not a question for your friend to answer. That's a question you should be asking your husband. Because intimacy for him may look completely different than it does for Lindsay. And I don't think they've ever really had that conversation about what they constitute as being intimate. But her friend advised her to tone it down. And she's like, I know you want more sex. So basically, I know you can be too much. And I know you can be really quick on the draw. So just relax, talk things through with him, and be patient with the process. Lindsay don't know how to do that, but that's what her friend suggested. And it was funny because they also talked about her favorite position, and she said it was on top. No, duh. That's, when you're on top, you have all the controls. She, of course, that made perfect sense. That's her favorite sexual position. Oh, and he and Olajuwon, they both acted like children when it came to sex. It's like, y'all grown, right? Because he was like, yeah, Dr. Viviana's coming over here, and I'm sure she's going to talk about, our lack of intimacy and, sex stuff. Who says sex stuff? Are you 12? I was so confused. I'm like, and I'm like, if you have to do that when it's just you and the camera having this conversation, and you said sex stuff and whispered it like you were afraid someone was going to hear you, that alone gave me the impression that you are not at all what she needs in the bedroom. Based off her personality, she needs a dominant person in the bedroom. Not necessarily with whips and chains and all that stuff, but just a man who does take charge in the bedroom. I'm not getting that from him. And it's interesting for him to be, quote unquote, Mark the Shark. I'm not seeing very shark-like qualities of him since he's been with Lindsay. And I don't know if it's because he's really unlike that with his friends, or because her personality is so big that it eclipses his own personality. And maybe he shrinks when he's around her, and that could be it as well. But again, I don't get the impression that he's going to be as dominant and as forceful in a nice way, in a consensual way that she needs in the bedroom. I think any man and woman can be taught, because obviously when you're being intimate with someone or having sex with somebody, especially for the first couple times, they don't necessarily know how to please you. They know how to please you the way they've pleased other men and other women, but there are certain things that you may like that the other woman doesn't like. Some women like their hair pulled. I'm not a huge fan. I don't mind it, but I don't pull it. I have locks. Don't pull my hair too hard. I'm tender-headed too. Like, you can't be all rough with me. But some women want like yanked all the way back. You have to learn the person. You have to ask them what they like and don't like. And I don't see Mark really asking those questions. I see Lindsay being very vocal about it. But the thing is she going to say it in a way that he's going to receive it? I don't know. Because she is so vocal and she is so brash and assertive and aggressive at times. But again, she's like that in regular life outside the bedroom. In the bedroom, she may not talk like that. But who knows? We're never going to know, because I ain't never going to sleep with the chick. So I don't know. But they definitely have a lot of work to do. Oh, one thing. Okay. So I said Dr. Viviana told her to stop being rude, which I appreciated. One thing that made me mad, because she's like, yeah, can you stop being rude? And Lindsay was like, I mean, Viv, but I was like, Viv, This woman got a PhD. You better call her Dr. Viviana. You better call her by her letters. Call her Dr. Viviana PhD. You don't call this chick Viv. I've never heard anybody on this show call this woman Viv. Y'all are not homegirls. Like, who are you talking to? I'm like, and I would have been like, that's Dr. Viviana, sweetie. I would have said it because I'm petty. But like, girl, I thought that was way too comfortable. It really upset me when I heard that. I was like, child, please. All that money she spent on that PhD, you gonna call me Viv? I am licensed, sweetie. So that made me mad. I thought that was so just weird. It struck out to me because I don't remember anybody ever calling her that. I was like, child, what are you doing with your life? Let's see. I did like that they set up the whole Nerf gun thing. And I love Lindsay Mercury, another couple. I love when they laugh together and they're just having fun and they're playful. It's great because her personality is so huge. And again, he kind of shrinks under her that sometimes it's very tense filled. The conversations are very tense between them. So I love that they had that moment of levity where they had the Nerf guns and they're just, running around the little apartment shooting each other with the Nerf guns. I thought that was cute. Dr. Viviana gave them a little basket that had some little treats for them. And it was funny because they had 2 ball gags in there. And I love that poor Mark, poor sweet innocent Mark, was like, what is this, a gag ball? I'm like, oh, you don't even know it's called a ball gag? Oh, sweetie. I thought that was too cute. And just, asking different questions, but it made them be intimate. It made them touch each other. And not even ask questions because they both had a ball gag. They couldn't talk, which I thought was great. And I think that was I know it was intentional because Dr. Viviana was like, you guys have had conversations that have made it hard for me to watch. You guys really hit below the belt and you cannot do that. If you want this marriage to be successful, if you guys want to work, then you have to make sure you establish that trust and that respect. Without it, you guys aren't going to go anywhere. And so I'm glad that she included the 2 ball guys because it made them both just shut up, but still focus on each other. And again, I love how silly they are. I love they're not afraid to kind of make fun of themselves. So it was a nice light moment between the 2 of them that I really liked watching. And that's what I put. I thought the basket was perfect. They were able to be playful and laugh a lot. And I will say this, because I was going to wait till the end to say this, but I thought it was an interesting conversation. Also kind of pissed off that they're still putting all the girls and all the guys together. Like, y'all were just together last week. Why every episode do we have to see either all the girls together and all the guys together or all the couples together at once? Okay. Why? This just happened last week. And again, because of the way the show is set up, it's a full week for us. It's only a couple of days for them. It's like, y'all just saw these people 3 days ago. Why are they together again? But I digress. The women did aerial yoga, which actually looks pretty fun. I wouldn't mind trying that myself with my girls. But I won't say they had a conversation about, do you miss dating? And I feel like I was asked this question when I first got married. And recently I was talking to a friend of mine who was single about her dating life. And I will say, at least for me personally, I do not miss dating in 2022. I met my husband in 2003. So that was before all of these dating apps, before Tinder and Hitch and blackpeoplemeet.com and all these other things. So I didn't have to do that. I met him in person. We weren't wearing masks then. We were able to see each other, talk, whatever. And, we're still together all these years later. So I feel like if he and I did, for whatever reason, did not work out and we get a divorce and I'm back to dating, or not even back to dating, I'm back to being single, I don't think I would survive. I've heard so many horror stories from people who do online dating from several friends of mine. And granted, there are some success stories as well, but the horror stories far outweigh the success stories. And I just don't think I have the patience for it. So truthfully, I don't miss dating because, and I heard a comedian say this and it's so true. I've been with my husband long enough that I know how to communicate with him. He knows how to communicate with me. He knows how to treat me. He knows how, I know how to treat him. Like all these things that take years to learn and years to perfect, I had that with him already. So to start from complete scratch and have to learn somebody all over again, I'm not old. I'm 40, but I ain't got time for that. I don't have time for it. I don't want to do that. I don't want to take the time to get to know you like that and take the time to figure out what I can and can't say to you, figure out, in terms of cooking, what do you like to eat? What do you not like to eat? Do you want me to cook? Are you going to do the cooking? Figuring out how to please you sexually and teach you how to please me sexually. I don't want to go through that process. I really don't. So I answered that question when I heard them talk about it. I was like, no, I don't miss dating. But Lindsay did say she misses dating sometimes because she misses being wooed. And it's something I didn't think about. It's just like, yeah, when you're dating somebody said when you're dating someone, you are basically sending your representative, not your best self, but not your whole self. Either way, it's still a matter of calling this person and missing them, and you can't wait to see them for your next date, and oh, we got butterflies because they're gonna meet your family for the first time. And it's like, yeah, all of that is gone with this show because you meet them, you marry them, they meet your family right then and there, and then they're in your face every single day for 8 weeks. It's like, oh yeah, you don't have that process of being chased, so to speak, and you don't have that anticipation because they're there all the time. It's like, oh, and it's something I didn't really factor in, but I can understand missing that. But I think overall, I don't miss dating. But I definitely understood what she was saying. But that's why it's so important to date your spouse, because even though you don't have that chase aspect to it, still the idea of going on dates, experiencing things for the first time together, all of that is really important to keep your marriage fresh. And one couple I know, they've been married for well over 20 years, but they still call each other boyfriend and girlfriend. They're like, this is my husband, but he's been my boyfriend, forever, and they still date and still are giddy and all that stuff because it helps to not have a relationship become stagnant. So I understood what Lindsay was saying, but I was like, girl, you can have that dating life. I ain't about that. I think they could possibly make it. However, I still don't see how Lindsay has held herself accountable for anything. She holds herself accountable for the nasty stuff she said in the bathroom at the bowling alley. And I feel like whenever he does try to say something, she immediately flips it on him and basically says, no, you're wrong because this is how you really feel because of X, Y, and Z. And it's like, girl, if he can't win for losing. And again, she does not hold herself accountable at all. So it's frustrating to watch her as well. I don't know if they're going to make it. If they say yes on decision day, I don't think they're going to make it long term at all. Definitely don't see that happening. But, they're good TV, so there you go. Now, Olajuwon and Katina. After what happened last week with Olajuwon, his tears mean nothing to me. Let me start by saying that. Most of the time when I see the men get emotional on the show, I kind of feel for them a little bit like, oh, look at him being vulnerable. Oh, he's so sweet. Oh, he really cares for her. And I'm not saying that those things are not true for him in his mind. Maybe he does really. He likes Katina. He obviously doesn't love her. Like, that's clear. But she doesn't love him yet either. I think he likes her. Likes the idea of being married. But he does not know what he's doing. That's probably the best way I can say it. He doesn't know what he's doing as a husband. He doesn't know what he's doing as a partner. He thinks that he does. He has it in his mind what that looks like. And for him never to have really seen a marriage, never been married. First of all, never been a boyfriend. Let's keep it all the way 100. You've never even been a boyfriend to anybody, let alone a husband. Your parents weren't married, so you didn't get to see that marriage. I think he has a brother that's married. But, the wife was interviewed, his sister-in-law was interviewed a couple times during the process of leading up to the wedding. And she didn't seem like she fit the mold at all of what Olajuwon wanted. And even when Olajuwon was talking about cooking and all that stuff, she was like, I hope whoever he marries is really patient because he's a lot. I mean, he's a good person, but he basically got a warped up idea of things. So he didn't see it in that marriage either. So I don't know where he came up with this idea that, oh, a wife needs to do this and a wife should act this way. And then as a husband, I'm going to do this. It's not a bad thing to come into any relationship with expectations of what you want to happen, what you want to see happen, how you want that person to treat you. That's not a bad thing to come to a relationship with those expectations. But you do have to remember that the other person is coming into the relationship with their own expectations. You may not meet all of theirs. They may not meet all of yours. So it's important, if you have this long list of things that you require in a spouse or a girlfriend or whatever, that you think about the most important things on that list. If your list has 25 things, chances are you're not going to be the woman that has all 25. But if only 5 of those things are really important core things, like she has to have a job, she has to have a relationship with God, she has to be kind-hearted, she has to be respectful, and she has to be, I don't know, consistent or whatever. If those are the 5 major things this person has to have, and they have those 5 major things, then don't sweat them about the other 20 things that they may or may not have. And I love that the way they had the show set up last night, that Dr. Viviana spoke to Olajuwon and Katina first, because I felt like they needed that conversation and that moment with her first before the other couples did. Because all of us, just based off the comments from last week's episode, and by the way, thank you guys so much for commenting on the episodes. I love talking back and forth with you guys about these couples, so continue to do that, please. But based off of the comments from last week's episode, or my video rather, on last week's episode, all of us were up in arms about Olajuwon, right? We were all upset. We were confused. We were calling him out and being archaic and all that stuff. And I think because of this strong reaction from everyone about what he was saying to her, they needed to start with him and her first. So I'm really glad that happened, because Dr. Viviana was like, we watch you guys all the time. We are kept updated on every single thing that happens in your marriage. And I have to say that no, this is not working for me. And so I put in my notes, Katina admitted to feeling bad about what he said, but she felt like she was disappointing him and disappointing herself. So her whole thing is him speaking to me, not even the way he spoke to her. She was like, the things that he said really hit on a lot of my insecurities, because sometimes I don't feel like, so I have insecurities about being a good wife and being a good partner. So he hit on all those insecurities. I feel like he's kind of bullying me in a way and making me feel like I'm not enough. So she's breaking down in tears, and he's looking stone-faced. Like, he doesn't look moved at all. He didn't look sympathetic or empathetic to her. He didn't try to hug her or hold her hand. He didn't give her a tissue when she was crying. I was like, really? And then what I do like about Katina is that even through her tears, Katina gave him eye contact. Because sometimes when people get really in their feelings and really emotional and the expert is there, they tend to direct all of their energy towards the expert while they're talking about their spouse. Katina looked Olajuwon in the eye and said, no, I felt like you were bullying me. I felt like I wasn't woman enough for you, and it really hurt and all this other stuff. But again, the fact that he didn't give her a tissue or hold her hand or anything or say, babe, that's not what I meant. Like, he wasn't able to say any of those things. And that really pissed me off. And one thing I did love that Dr. Viviana said to Olajuwon, she was like, did you not eat before you were married? Because it's putting so much emphasis on her not cooking and her not cleaning or whatever. And I thought, let me see. He questions if they're on the same level and requires more effort with cooking and cleaning. And Dr. V questioned where he got his ideals of a wife from. He wasn't really able to give her an answer. He was like, that's just how it is. No. Every wife, every husband, every marriage is different. It's unique to that individual couple. It's unique to whatever that individual couple needs and wants are. And obviously, a lot of us do come to a marriage with our own ideals of what it is or is not going to be based on our past experiences or couples we've seen around us. That's natural and normal. But again, you have to talk with your wife about that. Now, granted, most people talk about that before they get married. Obviously, that wasn't an option here. But in 3 weeks, you all should have sat down and had that conversation, because he keeps saying, yeah, she needs to cook, she needs to do this, because, she's home all day. She works from home. She is not a housewife. And he works at night, so he kind of breaking it down during the after party. He's like, I work at night, so sometimes when I come home early in the morning and I see the house is still the same as it was when I left the night before, it's like, okay, I can understand you being a little frustrated by that, but then that's the way you need to phrase it. He flat out called her lazy in the conversation with Dr. Viviana. And it's like, there's a way to handle everything. If you say to her, because I work at night and I get home early in the morning, it makes it feel some type of way that the house looks a certain way when I come back. Is it possible that you can help me out and clean the house after you finish work or before you go to bed? It is a small apartment. I don't have a lot of stuff. but he could have phrased it in a much nicer way. So it was the phrasing of a lot of things that he said, and he kept focusing on the cooking and cleaning, but it's less about you need to cook, you need to clean, and more about I feel like you're not being as much of a partner as I need you to be. I need you to do this. I'm doing this part. I need you to do this part. So now that I've said what I need, tell me what you need from me. Because I know I just sat down and told you all about how I feel unfulfilled in these ways. And so I'm saying that to you because I want to make sure you understand where I'm coming from and understand the kind of wife I believe I need. Now, on the flip side, tell me what kind of husband you need so that I can start doing those things. And that's what he never does. He focuses on what she needs to change, what she needs to understand, what she needs to do. And also focuses on making sure he gets his point across and that she clearly and concisely understands where he's coming from. But that's the first part. The second part is now to sit down with her and say, okay, now tell me what I can do. What can Big O? What can I do to make you feel better? What can I do to make you feel more like a wife? What can I do to serve you or to service you? Like, those questions are not coming out of his mouth because he assumes he's already doing those things. He's doing those things based off of his perception of what a husband is supposed to be. But if your perception doesn't match up with her perception, then you doing those things mean absolutely nothing to her. And he needs to fix that. He needs to talk to her about it. And let me see, what else did I put? She said, I feel like I'm not good enough. He brought up her working from home. Like, that means she has time to do it all. And I said, work is work. And he kept insinuating, he said that she still thinks about I and not us. So he doesn't think she's all the way in this marriage. But again, what he wanted to say was, I feel like I need more of a partner in these specific areas. And he also said, not just in physically doing things, but he doesn't feel like she's been very vulnerable with him and hasn't really opened up, that she still kind of has a wall up. And I understand that line of thinking a lot more than all the garbage he was spewing last week. So when he's explaining himself, he was getting emotional, like, I'm getting emotional because I like her. Like, I really like her. And I was like, Again, if last week hadn't happened, I think I would sympathize a little bit more. But he missed me with all of that. Last week left a very, very sour taste in my mouth. And so I wasn't able to really feel for him like I probably should have when he finally got to the crux of what it is that's bothering him. And I like that they finally had that conversation. I don't know how much good it's going to do exactly, but I'm glad that they at least had the conversation. I put that he feels like he's giving 100%, but he feels like he can't grow with her if he doesn't know how she feels. So he feels like he's been very vocal about saying, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. I like you because of this. I like our marriage because of this, but this is where it's, not great for me. He feels like he's not getting that same from her. But I think it's also hard for her to express herself because his personality is so incredibly big and he's always talking and it's like this, and this. So it is hard sometimes to probably get a word in edgewise to say, okay, relax. This is how I feel about things. And based off of last week, I feel like that affected her trust in him. Because if you're going to talk to me in that tone and basically tell me to my face, I'm not only am I not good enough to be your wife, that I'm not a woman enough either, it's going to take a while for me to trust you enough to open up. Now, I feel like she's going to get there a little faster than I probably would because she really wants this marriage and she really likes him and cares for him as her husband. And that's what hurt her the most, that she's trying so hard and he's not recognizing that. Yes, I put that his little fit was less about cooking, cleaning, and more about he feels like he's not getting anywhere with her because she's still not opening up. So to combat that, when they left, Dr. Viviana left, she scheduled a little movie night for them. And it's funny, I saw a meme that said, good for Katina going to the dollar store to buy snacks instead of making a home cooked meal. I thought that was kind of funny. But I guess he's always talked about having a movie night at home and they just never did it. So she had this cute little thing set up with like old school popcorn containers and a bunch of candy and just, vegged out on the couch with him. And he was like, oh, this is nice. Oh, you remembered I wanted to watch a movie. Oh, that was so sweet of you. I really appreciate it. He's like, see, stuff like this is what I like. You just listening to me and putting this to action, that means a lot to me. Now, he could have just stopped there. He talked and talked. Yeah, this is really dope. This is really dope. I'm so glad you're listening to me. This is great. And just kept talking. I'm like, brother, what? He could have just said, oh, thank you. And then in talking head said, this means so much to me because she actually listened to me. And this is great. We didn't have to go out the house. It was just really chill, just the two of us. And left it at that. But he talked so much from that one little like thing she did. I was like, huh? I thought that was a lot. And then he also acted like a child. In their little basket, they had a bunch of BDSM stuff. BDSM is, bondage, dominant, submissive kind of thing. So it was like leather and handcuffs and whips and masks and collars and all that kind of stuff. And he gave her a massage and he called her vagina a tutu. It's like, why are men children on this episode? Why are he and Mark acting like kids? Like, you can't say vagina? I thought that was really strange. But I mean, it was cute seeing them, do the little cutesy thing, put on little costumes. They got to be silly with each other. And I don't know, they like ended up back in the bedroom. That don't mean they had sex. They still have not had sex yet, as far as we know. So I don't know. I think Olajuwon wants to be married, but I think he needs to come to grips with himself and really admit to himself that he does not know what that means. And if he's willing to learn and willing to figure out what that means for himself, that's fine. But that requires him letting go of his antiquated ideals of what a wife does and what a marriage should look like. Hopefully that happens, because I feel like Katina has let it be known that she's really in this and she wants to be married to him as well. So we'll see what happens. I'll say Noy and Steve is a yes. Jasmina and Michael are 50-50. Lindsay and Mark, I'm going to say, are a yes on decision day, but they're no long term. And Olajuwon and Katina are, I'm going to say yes because they really want it. And I think that they're going to do their best to work on it. But she needs to let him in more. He needs to really focus on how he treats her and really talk to her about what kind of marriage they both want. So that's my spiel for the week. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Feel free to like this video, share this video, comment on this video. Like I said, I love talking with you guys about these episodes. The comments are hilarious, but also very, very insightful. I appreciate that. Make sure you also click the notification bell so you don't miss the next video. And I'll see you guys next week. Peace.